sponsored by ZMOT Auto and is titled Dealer to Dealer Open Forum. Today's webinar presenters are Bobbie Herron, Director Dealer Marketing, Jennifer Briggs, Director Dealer Strategy, Ashley Mabery, Director Retail Performance, and their invited guest, Erich Gail, CEO of the Cardinale-Group of companies, a parent company to the #4 highest sales volume e-dealer group in North America. The webinar will run approximately 1 hour. Please welcome Bobbie, Jennifer, Ashley, and Erich.
Hi. Hello.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Sean, thank you very much. And Bobbie, Ashley, Jennifer, thank you very much. And good morning to you for this invitation. For those of you just joining on this webinar, this is the first of a series that ZMOT has created for the benefit dealer to dealer throughout North America. And in order to do that in its inaugural launch, they asked, and I agreed, to be their dealer panelists this morning. A quick backstory on the Cardinale-Group of companies. We comprise 3 aligned yet diverse operating companies consisting of the Cardinale Automotive Group, our sponsor today, which is ZMOT Auto, as well as Cardinale Automotive Group Vehicle Supply North America. And I'm pleased to introduce your facilitators and your guides this morning, Ashley Mabery, who is the Director of Retail Performance for ZMOT Auto, serves and leads and provides investment guidance and performance management to clients throughout the United States and Canada and Mexico. Ashley is an amazing woman and phenomenal automotive leader with a 14-year retail automotive sales background, stemming primarily from the showroom floor, where she spent many years selling plus 25 units per month and moved throughout the ranks of many departmental leadership roles, including BDC, marketing director, internet sales director, sales manager, and did so in the really hyper-competitive European luxury market in Southern California as well as in the Western United States. So Ashley, thank you for the invitation this morning. Joining us as well is Bobbie Herron, who is the Director of Dealer Marketing. And in Bobbie's role, it is her responsibility to guide the specific in-market buyer targeting and brand performance of dealer clients that ZMOT serves throughout the United States and Canada and Mexico. Bobbie is a world-class leader and a woman who is well-known and very well-respected throughout the industry, having served as both a corporate director, an in-store general manager, sales manager, finance manager, and on and on and on. And most recently joined the organization having spent a number of years in a transformative role within the Garber Automotive Group with stores throughout the Midwest and along the Eastern Seaboard. And I'm proud to say that Bobbie, by her own efforts and commitment and tenacity, is the 2014 Automotive News 40 Under 40 Award Professional recipient. So thank you, Bobbie. And certainly, without further ado, the lovely Ms. Jennifer Briggs, Director of Dealer Strategy for ZMOT, who provides that dealer-to-dealer strategic long-term investment of clonable and repeatable performance improvement within the stores of a myriad of clients throughout the United States and Canada and Mexico as well. And Bobbie, Jennifer, like Bobbie, like Ashley, is a high-performing leader who came from inside the stores, and through tenacity and a professional commitment, was blessed to earn and thus deserve the rights as a corporate director, operations manager, sales manager, finance manager, and on. And similarly held leadership roles throughout a variety of automotive groups. Most recently, prior to joining our organization, was with the Feldman Automotive Group in primarily the Midwest. And is this year's, congratulations Jennifer, this year's 2015 Automotive News 40 Under 40 Professional being honored this year at NADA. Congratulations Jennifer, and thank you very much for the invitation. For those of you on this call, there are a few ways for you to be able to engage the audience, to engage the facilitators, as well as questions that I'll be more than happy to answer. And in order to do that, There appears to be a question box within your webinar screen as well. Our team will be monitoring Twitter with a hashtag of JustAsk at ZMOT Auto. So we highly encourage your engagement and your active participation. We look forward to a wonderful dialogue today. And I think on that note, Ashley Mabery, as well as Bobbie and Jennifer, turned in preparation for this webinar to a kind of an open forum platform and asked questions from which they received a number. And Ashley, I believe, has selected a question to kind of help tee things off. So let me turn this over to Ashley.
I did. Thanks, Eric, for the lovely introduction. We got a lot of questions that came in, and we all got to pick a few that we thought were an overall theme that we kept seeing over and over again. And the question that I picked is, how do you create a progressive culture? My store seems locked in the 1980s mentality. Help. And Eric, I'd like you, since you're coming as our dealer panel, to take on this question first.
Okay. Well, I love the question. And it seems like this is one that, framed many different ways, seems to be one that continues to find its way to light as we as an industry become more and more savvy, more courageous, and we're watching the separation between the have and have-nots. So to answer the question, I would say, how do you create a progressive culture? I think first you need to identify, what does that really mean? What is the progressive culture? This is not an environment where you change for the sake of change. This is an environment where you pull the carpet back and say, we're a brick and mortar store. We're masking ourselves as a digital retailer or a digital dealer by having kind of a checkbox marketing program, right? Not uncommon that I speak with many colleagues and many other dealer group leaders and principals throughout the United States and Canada and throughout Mexico that will say, you know, we're great in store, but we really don't know how to attract or focus on in-market buyers. So I think that the most important thing is to be able to get everybody into a room and identify what your weakness is. And you're going to hear me talk a lot about the word courage. You have got, in a leadership role, regardless of what it says on your business card, you have got to be able to come up with enough courage to get smart people in the room and pull the carpet back and say, we're weak. We don't do well in this area. Or we overrate and think we're better here than we really are. So let's go there and say, we really don't do the following things well, okay? And if we're stuck in the mentality of the up bus, which died a decade ago, or that VBACs are all VBACs are actually going to come back, or that radio and television and print and billboards and all this kind of stuff is what's driving would-be walk-in traffic, then we've got some serious discussions to have in store. So to create a progressive culture is to really mirror, where do we, as consumers, forget what we do for a living every day, where do we shop? How do we buy? What are the trigger points for us that have to do with making a purchase selection? And in our industry, the purchase selection happens to be the second most investment that we'll make outside the purchase of a home. Okay, so we in the automotive industry are guiding the decisions that people make with the second largest investment that they'll make in their adult life. And so what are the trigger points that are going to get them to do that? Thank you, Ashley.
Those are great points. I wanted to add a few things. You know, I think that regardless of what progressive means to you, there's a few things that you have to understand. One is that changing a culture in a store is going to be the hardest thing that you're probably ever going to do. Time. So make sure that you're not the one that gives up on it. And remember that you can't change everyone at once, right? And there's going to be a few key challenges. One, you really need to help the people in your store understand the why. By nature, most of us hate change, and you really need to give them a compelling reason. You need to have a plan, do your research, and come with facts, and be able to communicate the unique benefits to each person at different levels. The why for a GM is not going to be the same why for a salesperson. And if you try to communicate it that way, you're going to lose some people and you're going to lose buy-in. You know, politics can always come into play when you're talking about culture change. So make sure that you're identifying the person with the most influence in your store and try to tap this person to get them on your side, right? Obviously, a GM is going to have a lot of influence, but that might not be the most influential person depending on what you're trying to change in your store. So make sure that you're really looking for that. And then if all else fails, get buy-in from 1 or 2 people, get them on the program, and then as they have success, you can highlight their successes and people are going to want what they have because they're going to be benefiting from your changes. You know, I think that the biggest thing when we're talking about digital change in the store is the redistribution of resources. And we're all afraid to lose what we have for the promise of something that we may get, right? If I turn off my radio advertising to put it into digital, am I going to miss out on what I already have and am I going to actually lose, right? It's that fear. So make sure that you're doing small things successfully. Identify hotspots that cost a little but have a big benefit rather than trying to change everything all at once. And at the end of the day, put yourself on the line. You know, there's nothing more compelling than somebody who's willing to make the commitment to the GM or to the dealer principal that says, hey, you know what, if you don't believe in this, let me prove it to you. I'm willing to pay for it. I'm willing to put myself on the line for it. And here's the results that we're going to get. In the interest of time, I'm going to leave it at that. But Jennifer or Bobbie, do either of you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think you hit on some great points there, Ashley. And I know that we've got a ton of questions coming in from the audience. So I think we should go on to Bobbie's question that she selected.
Perfect. I want to just touch quickly on what Ashley was just talking about with the progressive culture and what Erich was saying. The most important thing I can tell you in changing a culture is that it requires buy-in and it requires steps. You can't come in and change something overnight even if you want to. You have to create an atmosphere with buy-in, and that's what Ashley means when she says determine and identify who are your key players, who is influential to the team. Title does not matter. Who can you create buy-in with that will help you create it along the way throughout the store? Identify that person and then start to lead by example. And in everything that we're going to talk about today, I would caution you to think this way. Whenever you're trying to change something, whatever it is, whether you're working a deal, you're changing a culture, you're working on digital marketing, it doesn't matter. If there are 2 different sides, those 2 different sides are going to meet in the middle, and every time somebody is going to win that battle. And eventually at the end of that battle, there's not going to be a war because somebody will throw their hands in the air and somebody will say, okay, that's it, I'm in, I give up, or I'm done, right? So don't be the person that throws your hands in the air. Make sure that you're the person that calms the other one. So my opinion on that. But my question that I selected, because I got this so many times, and I think it's such a struggle in so many stores. Question number 2, we have too many people who don't do much, stand up on the point and wait for ups, and too few people actually getting after it every day. How can I explain this in financial terms to my owner or my GM? Erich, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I have many number of thoughts. This happens to be a real point of contention for me personally and professionally. And I'm not afraid to ruffle feathers in this call, folks. This is part of being an open forum. But I would say that, quite frankly, anyone who is responsible, which is everyone, within an organization that watches the hemorrhage of the investors' money spew out into the street by people that are standing there waiting for something to fall into their lap, to then turn around and lay claim from a commission standpoint for something that was really already earned by the dealer and walking through the process, I think is an abomination. When I drive through auto malls, which is often, and I see people standing on the point, I actually have to shake my head and wonder why. If you are blessed, any of you on this call, if you are blessed to be within an organization that has the bonus of drive-by, walk-in traffic, good for you, it's a bonus. Everything else is something that we need to mine and build and develop ourselves. So if the question is, how can I explain this in financial terms to my owner? It's very simple. Address the principal investors of the group and say, we invest $10,000, $50,000, $150,000 a month to make the phone ring, to make the chat come in, to bring the form fills, right? To bring the text messages. We are investing in our own return. And yet there are 3 of us out of 25 that are addressing all these inbound phone calls and form fill submissions and so on. Everybody else is just standing out there. And so if you have appointment setters that are building for someone whose job it is to just walk and give a dynamic presentation and demonstration of an automobile, then ask yourself, what are we spending all that money on, right? My truth is that the industry has already changed, and many people have not accepted the fact that we are the concierge, we are the guide of the process. The consumers already know what they want and why they want it. They're selecting us as the dealer for a very particular reason. It's our responsibility to bring them to the point where they have fallen in love and we help facilitate their buy. People say, what do you do for a living? Do you sell cars? The answer is no. We help people buy cars, period. So when you have to put this in financial terms, you have to say, of X dollars invested per month, how many units are we selling as a direct result of that investment? And if it's not enough, and we have people that are, hitting hours or hitting minimums or not covering their draw, whatever the case may be, then we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing all day? I mean, are we literally going to stand around for 10 or 12 hours, 50, 60 hours a week on the HOPE plan? Okay? It's very easy to have that in terms of financial discussions, but remember what I had shared with you all before, and I would write this down and underline it and circle it. It's always going to come back to courage. I believe Ashley had touched on the fact that change makes people scared, and that is an inherent reaction to the word change. A shift in your thinking, a shift the way you look at things, and the things that you look at will now come into clearer view. Okay? So I hope that empowering to those who find themselves in a culture where that is accepted, I think you need to stand up, rise up, look at the financial return of that, and have a very frank discussion with those who are responsible for that ROI, which I say is everyone, and say we're underperforming for the dollars that we're investing. And Bobbie, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, definitely. So great points, Erich. You're absolutely right. And when you're looking at it like this, where I saw this question coming in happened a couple different times. And the focus came from, I see people standing outside and not doing anything. I'm a sales manager. I need to get them on point. I'm a BBC director. I need to get them on point. What I would tell you is we spent so many years in our industry teaching people to stand on point and watch the lot that we spent no time teaching them how to initiate contact. And what I mean by that is, if you're the person who stands out on the lot or you're watching that happen, that typically came from a hook and close, which is an old school method in the car business. And what would happen is the consumer would come in, somebody would grab them, they would hook them, and they would turn them over to a close. Those people either were taught or did not buy into initiating contact with the customer. It's the same thing as when we put somebody out on the service drive. As a manager, we put them on the service drive and we go, why don't you want to work the service drive? I mean, it's our hottest opportunity in the store to be able to talk to consumers who are already near the reality of it, because they don't know how to initiate the contact comfortably. You could throw a word track at them, you can throw a template at them, but ultimately, you need to get out on the lot with them, you need to get out in the service drive with them, and you need to lead by example and show them. And that means whatever position you're in, whether you're a porter in the back of the house, whether you're a sales manager in the front of the house, if you know how to do it and you know how to do it right, do it with them. And that's where that buy-in comes in, right? We cannot stand in a showroom, we cannot stand in an office and say, this is what you should be doing, why aren't you doing it? We have to strap on our boots and we have to get out there and we have to do it with them, because people buy into change when they see it be effective and implemented. So that's a huge deal. And if you're looking at explaining it to your owner, a simple way that you're going to explain this is, 60 to 80% of the spend for advertising in automotive is digital. Should be a lot more than that, but let's go with the average. 60 to 80%. If we're bringing all those consumers into our website, then our website traffic, then our direct actions that are happening need to be generated from a point of an online showroom. So while we'll walk your lot and look at your inventory, you should know what it looks at online, know what your consumer is, and where they're located. Ashley, do you have any points on that before we transfer it over to Jennifer?
You know, I'm sorry, Bobbie, I had dropped out of the call, and so I missed a lot of that. Why don't we move over to Jennifer?
I would like to say before we move over that Ashley agrees, right?
Ashley,
Jennifer, you're up.
Okay, so here is my question that I love, because it's about fear. So what I selected was that we seem to run scared in our store. We spend way too much on advertising and lead sources. I'm doing some air quotes here for those of you who, of course, can't see me. But then we turn around and we give the cars away. We drop our pants and we give them away at no gross. And then here comes the owner or the GM yelling that we're not making enough money. Are we stuck in a doom loop? And cue the music, dun, 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 dun. Are we stuck, Eric? What can we do? What's your opinion?
They are stuck. And this happens month in and month out. And it really goes back to, this question comes up all the time, okay? And what it really goes back to is things that we touched on, I think, in questions 1 and 2. The bottom line is, what is your mission? What is your purpose? What is your expected ROI per store, per month, per associate? You know, in the hotelier industry, they always talk about revenue per square foot, and I think we need to move there within automotive. Let's look at the entire footprint of the blacktop of every parking space and say, what's the revenue, what's the gross generated per stripe, per desk, per phone, whatever the case may be. So the reality is that yes, more often than not, the courage that it takes to be a master plumber and pull through your statement and say, unbelievable that we're investing this much money in the types of things that we're either totally ill-prepared for, we're not trained to deal with, we really have no business being involved in it at all. But now I look at it purely financially, and it's the 22nd of the month, and I don't have enough units out because people have been standing out on the lot, or we're expecting appointment setters, to be able to feed 25 salespeople on the lot who are standing there, in the smoke and joke huddle, right? Are we stuck in the doom loop? Absolutely yes. When you shift your thinking to say, for every dollar that I spend, I expect a return. For every single invested dollar, it better result in a direct action back to me, my store, my dealerships, my phones. And if that is then the expectation, as it should be, then every person within said store, let's focus on the sales department right now, when that phone rings, it's a buyer. And I heard you say air quotes around lead sources or advertising. Those words, in my opinion, are so long gone, kicked down the road. We're in the in-market buyer business, folks, okay? If you're investing in the feel-good, let me see my name in lights, then you are stuck in the doom loop because it's expensive, it doesn't have attribution to it, and it's very, very difficult to get your arms wrapped around what am I actually getting for said investments. When you're in the in-market buyer business, the differentiator there is a targetable direct action to my store, phone, chat, form submission, or text, that I know exactly where you were, exactly where you came from, and then as a leadership role, what did my store, what did my department, what did my team take as a direct action thereafter? Okay, so it happens all the time. So herein lies the courage then for those of you on the line that are internet sales managers, desk sales managers, floor sales managers, GMs or GSMs who are responsible to someone else who comes to you and says, this isn't working, or why don't we have enough units out, or whatever the case may be. Then you have to write the word down that says reverse engineer. take a look at the dollars that you spend, take a look at the units that you sell, and reverse engineer them and reattribute their sources to find out where do we sell. And from that point, you can identify where to place your investments. You can put more into something. You can cut something altogether because it doesn't fire. You can put money into training. More often than not, using, and I'll wrap this quickly, using the rule of 8, which would be the average units moved nationwide, the divisible math, right? This always comes down to the rule of 8, right? If you want to sell 80 units a month, you need X number of salespeople. You need 10 salespeople selling 8 units a month, or 160 at 20, whatever the case may be, right? But those people have to then go to work every single day to bring to close the expected result of the dollars or the processes invested. Jennifer, great question. Thank you.
And Erich, thank you for that. And why I selected this question is because, as some of you may not know, I have an accounting background. I was a controller in a group. And so the cost benefit of what we do is something that I am very passionate about. And Erich said the right term, which is return on your investment. And what actually drives my focus and strategy is I'm looking for at least a 5-time return on investment for my advertising. And when you do, and so many of us do it in this industry, we are focusing on, air quotes again, lead sources that are so far out. These people are not ready to buy a car. We're looking at them 6 months out. And so when we pull them in before they're ready, in order to get them to say yes, what can you do? You dropped your pants and then you're not making a profit. Your return on investment is terrible. And I'm sorry, I will straight up say, I don't care if you're covering your costs on an advertiser or maybe you're only making twice, it's not enough. If you focus your strategy on in-market buyers, like Erich said, that is what we focus on. You grab those buyers when they are ready to say yes, they give you better grosses. You are not dropping your pants. You are not in the doom loop. But everybody is afraid. We are scared in the store to say, I don't need to stick with this big unnamed, lead source provider or whatever it might be. I'm afraid because they tell me I'm not going to get phone calls. They tell me I'm not going to do this. And I think Ashley touched on it earlier is if you are that afraid, start small. Start small and see what you can crank out off of that smaller and, yes, smarter investment of your money. And when you see that you can get a 5-time ROI on that small investment compared to maybe a 2-time on a gigantic investment, you're going to get more confident. So if you got to put a baby toe in the water, put a baby toe in the water. But conversely, from the advertising side, like Erich said, you have got to make sure that your team is trained to know how to handle buyers. Do they know how to build value in what you do, or have you just taught them how to go back to the desk to negotiate to get a discount? I don't discount. I don't like to do it. I will build the value. Because when we can build the value in what we're doing, that's where it benefits the customer and it benefits us. We have state-of-the-art facilities. These dealers, most of you guys, your OEMs are requiring you to make these massive investments. You do training. Hopefully you're doing training. Side note, if you're not investing in training, you need to take a little bit of that giant spend that you're afraid of cutting and take just a small portion of it and invest it in training your teams so that they can actually work with the buyers and build that value for you. You will get a 20-fold return on that investment. Because coupling the two of those is where you really win, and you take back control. The doom loop is you're giving up control of your dealership, of your profits, of the results to somebody who is steering you. It's like you're giving your lunch money over to the bully. Why do that? We, in this business, we are alpha personalities. You do not sell cars if you do not have an aggressive personality. Why are you giving your money to the bully? Take a look. Take a deep dive into your statement, into your advertising sources, and determine who is delivering you opportunities that result in car deals making money for you. It is scary, but you've got to do it or you're going to continue to get beat up after school when you walk home. It's just that simple. Ashley.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely. I know we spent a lot of time on this question, so I'm going to make it brief, but I think from a retail performance standpoint, I think you also need to ask yourself if you have an experiential or a transactional process. Are you offering value, right? Because if you're treating your customers like it's a transaction, they're going to treat it that way too, and they're going to ask for more money and a bigger discount because there's no value there. And we all talk about building value in the vehicle, but you need to build value in yourself as a dealer and as a brand, and also your salespeople need to know how to build value in the process that you have in your stores and in them as a salesperson.
That's a great point. All right, next question, Bobbie. It is coming up for you.
I know we spent a lot of time on this question. Yeah, I know we've spent a lot of time on that question, but I do want to add something in there on that, which is just looking at it from another vantage point. I saw that question come in from a lot of salespeople. So what I would tell you outside of what you've just heard is, please source your stuff properly. It takes just as much time to hit the button I was too weak to ask or they drove by as it does to do the proper one. And if you don't want to have the GM or the sales manager coming at you, likewise, if you're a sales manager or a GM, hold your people accountable for sourcing. Stop spending money in areas that don't work. And what I mean by that is we can track all the data in the world, but let's talk about real world. Let's make it a priority to pick the correct source so that when we look at sold reports, when we look at things, we're not making decisions based on gut. We don't have to do that anymore. I would challenge you to hold people accountable and make sure that that's happening, and hold yourself accountable. If you want more business in your store, source things properly so they know where to spend their money. So that's awesome. My little rant on that one right there. All right. So question 4. How many appointments should we be setting from our lead? How many units should we sell as a result? Is there a formula for this? Eric, I'm going to turn this question over to you with the thought pattern that everybody in the industry reports something different, and it's very difficult for people to get a real number. So as a dealer, with all the stores that we have, give us some real numbers, please.
Okay. Well, thank you for the question. This is one that will go to a rant because this is one that is a sore point of contention for me, which goes back then to being 100% responsible, not being in the doom loop, looking for the attribution, requiring the ROI says what? Am I in the leads business, or am I in the auto sales gross and net business? So the reality is, when you're in the doom loop, when you run scared, and it's the 17th of the month and you're nowhere close to your track, and you pull everybody into the office and you scream at them, light the phones up, call whoever, I need more what? I need more leads. I need more stuff. And there could be nothing farther from reality that is actually needed. And that is, what I need to do is I need to focus my efforts, whether it's a combination of traditional and digital and all points in between, but wherever I invest my money, it better be to an in-market buyer, period. And I will keep repeating that for all of you to write that term down, take the word leads, write it down, draw a circle around it, and draw a line right through it. Leads, ladies and gentlemen, are subjective. Leads can be bad. Leads can be, I couldn't get a hold of them, right? When you shift your thinking, especially those that occupy the GM role or the dealer principal or above, if you put in your mind, if you shift your thinking to say, I invest money to target, acquire, earn, and deserve the right to sell cars, to help people buy cars to in-market buyers, then every single direct action into my stores is in fact an in-market buyer. And do not try to convince me otherwise, okay? For those within the organization that we lead, now 19 stores, they're well aware of the fact that we only deal in-market buyers. Don't use the L word ever, ever. within our stores. And here's why. How many appointments should be setting from our leads? Well, it all depends. If you have an environment where you're pouring in 2,500 leads, 1,000 leads, whatever the case may be, and you're selling 50 units a month, you have a 5% close rate. That's horrid, okay? Now, let me also identify that what I'm about to share with you comes with the courage to be able to accept the fact that if you do what we ask of our stores and the dealers that we lead throughout North America, it's start at start. Have the courage to say, I've never really looked at this the right way, and I have the courage to start at start, okay? So, when you hold yourselves to the following metrics very quickly, going back to another term I've given, reverse engineer it, you will look backwards into your inbound buyers and say, wow, how many do I really have? As opposed to those who are 60 days, 90 days, 6 months out, okay? So here's our formula for those of you on the call. Take your pen out, open your iPads. 75% is your first number of every single inbound in-market buyer should and must result in an appointment, period. Don't fall away from that. Don't say, oh, you must be out of your mind. Just hear me all the way through. 75% of your inbound in-market buyer direct actions to your store should result in an appointment. Of said appointments, 75% of them should be manager, voice-to-voice confirmed, thus driving the experiential part of us helping people buy cars and removing the transactional mindset that says you're a piece of meat and I'm just here to sell you something and it's going to be a one and done and I'll never retain you afterward. Okay? So 75% appointment creation. Of those 75%, 75% of them need to be manager confirmed, resulting in an 80% show rate. And I will take a challenge for anyone who says, well, that's not possible. But the reality is it happens every single day. Let me go on. Of the 80% show rate, you should hold a minimum standard of an 80% close rate. The result of 75, 75, 80, and 80 will produce for you a minimum of a 36% close rate. Now let me reverse engineer this. If you do the same applicable formula to your active operation and you want to reach for the trash can and get sick because you've got a 9%, an 11%, or whatever the case may be, you have to ask yourself why. You have to go back and purify the fact that if I had 1,000 leads come in and 500 of them were just chick, they're just smoke, there's nothing there. And all I did was burn precious resources, precious capital. I burned my people out, right? Left message, left message, left message. What happens is human nature, even for the most dedicated of us, human nature will say, pretty soon I'm just going to start to pre-qualify people. Okay? This has one phone number on it, no email address. There's nothing here. I'm just going to move on to the next one. And we're blowing right past what could be an in-market buyer. So the reality is you have to have the courage to say, do I need more stuff? Do I need more leads? Or would I rather have high quality, low funnel, 7 days or less in-market buyers that will take direct actions? If you have the courage to go back and purify the big number, watch how quickly your team will have the time, the clarity, the enthusiasm, and the excitement to be able to engage with an in-market buyer. Now, from a leadership standpoint, directors, GSMs, GMs, dealer principals, you have to have the expectation that says, I invested the money. We found the right partners. It might very well be the existing partners that you have now. Hallelujah. Okay? But we have targeted everything to an in-market buyer, and we have eliminated every single thread that comes into our store that is not an in-market buyer. And more often than not, you can cut $5, $10, $15, $20,000 out of your active monthly investment and produce more unit sales at more gross and obviously more net because you're not spending the money anymore by just purifying what it is that I look at. We are what we focus on, people. We are what we focus on. If we're looking for in-market buyers and we don't currently have them, by God, it's time to shift, looking for that ROI, looking to be responsible for the team. It's time for us to focus 100% of our efforts on the in-market buyer. In this day and age, with the technology and the attribution levels that we have now as an industry, both automotive and just consumer buying habits and behaviors, there's no reason anymore why we should be struggling to find out who came from where. So I'll leave it at that. Wonderful question. This is a transformative place for many stores. Yes.
Eric, we just got an amen coming in on the questions, and then we
amen. Hallelujah.
But can you run back through that formula one more time?
75% of all inbound direct actions. Let me clarify that. Form, chat, text, targeted phone numbers. Those are direct actions into my store. Those have been invested in, thus they must produce a result. 75% of that total must result in an appointment. It's a combination of who am I targeting, where am I spending my money, and are my people trained to actually be able to sell at what we call the zero moment. Zero moment retail says, the buyers have selected us, am I ready to actually facilitate them buying a car right now? If you can't answer the question yes, then find people to help train your people, okay? So 75% of that 75%, 75% of those must be manager voice-to-voice confirmed to provide someone with that, hi, my name is, and I understand you're coming in for this, and this is how we do it. And folks on this call, if you want, we have a script we are happy to share with you that we've been using for years. It's a VIP experiential script that the managers say to every single consumer because that's where we sell. The result of that call should produce an 80% show rate, and of your shown appointments, you need to close north of 80%. Now, these metrics, for many people that are trying to hold on to the way that it once was, will put a note next to it and say, that's not right. That doesn't work. Well, guess what? It's because we're dealing in the law of large numbers. You're trying to cram in too much from top of the funnel into a formula that's not going to produce the necessary return. So, thank you.
Yeah. That's great information. Great information.
We're getting some questions that they want the script. So tell you what, guys, if you want that script, just tweet any one of us or tweet at ZMOT Auto, and we will be happy to connect and get you that script.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to address some of the things before we go into any of the other questions on there on this point. And I would tell everybody listening, regardless of position, you have to start at start, right? We say that a lot at ZMOT. We say that a lot internally. We've always said that a lot. The reason I say that to you is if you're looking at your numbers right now after hearing what Erich said and going, but how do I get there? Here's why, right? So you have generation and you have conversion in your store, right? So generation is your marketing. Generation is anything that's generating an opportunity for you in the store, whether it's phone, it's email, it's whatever it is, right? Then you have your conversion side, which is people in process. Before you can get to that number, you need to dive deep and figure out where your problem is. And I mean, take yourself out of you, because it's hard to admit sometimes if we're the problem, right? So take yourself out of you and really look at it. If you have opportunities that are coming in that aren't converting, okay, you might have a problem in your process. If you've got opportunities that are coming in and nobody's able to get a hold of them, maybe they've been out too long, they're talking to 50 other dealers, you've got problems with your sources. So there's a formula to that. And any one of us is happy to have that conversation with you. My phone number is not on the screen, but as the first one, I'm going to throw it out there. It's 989-672-9945. Text me, call me, email me, tweet me, Facebook me, LinkedIn me. I don't care how you get a hold of me. I'm happy to have a conversation with you about how to figure that out in your store, and so is everybody else on this team. So, Jennifer, with that, I will hand it over to you.
No, that is definitely a great point, and the start is definitely very important. And you guys just realize, because this is going to lead into an awesome question that we got right as we kicked off the webinar. You gotta have that courage to admit that you don't know what you don't know, and look where you are, and then from that ground level, then make the transition. So again, I want to just let you guys know you can ask questions here on the webinar, or you can tweet at ZMOT Auto with the hashtag #JustAsk any of your questions. We're monitoring both. So I've got a question here that is just phenomenal. As a first-time sales manager at a small dealership, I need to get an understanding of how to grow the business. We have an internet site that does very little for us, and our understanding is zero on how to move from a normal dealership, along the normal, to what I'm going to insert here, an internet business. How do we get information, and how do we maximize on the subprime market as well? And we got to help on that. So, Erich, would you like to kick that off?
Sure. I love the question. And when you consider the demographic and the layout of most retail dealers throughout the U.S., that is a common thread. That is a common size, smaller, local, regional dealer. I'm trying to do the best that I can. First and foremost, one of the things that was commented on there was we have an internet site. We don't think it does very well. Folks, right out of the gate, let me give you a couple things that are an absolute must-have. If you can't track all of your inbound phone calls, then go find a company that will provide that. There's a gazillion of them. This is not a pitch fest, folks. You don't have to look very far. Find someone and put tracking numbers on every single thing that you do. Every place you spend money, put a tracking number on it. When you look at your ROI at the end of the month, somebody bills you $5,000 on the HOPE plan, and you got 2 phone calls and they're trying to sell you on 87 map prints, shoot it. Cancel it, get out, run. Those that are driving your business, driving your in-market buyers, will show on those reports. The second thing, equally important, maybe even more so, a website. If you are stuck and choked into the OEM platform website, where you must do what they want on some broken, tired-ass old website, run. Because every single dollar you're spending, you're pouring it on top of some old relic that will not convert your in-market buyer. And this is where, as the dealers, we have got to be responsible to hold our bottom line and say, I am not investing $5, $10, $15, $50, $100,000 a month to drive to some busted-ass website. So what we've done as an organization, and what many dealers do throughout North America, is if you're required to have an OEM site that's a train wreck, make it a .NET site, isolate it just to the OEM site, and move on. Build yourself. Go and find, there are probably 5 or 6 highly progressive, conversion-driven platforms that, again, no pitch fest, but go find them and research them, and have someone build you a Formula One car, weaponized, kick-ass website that will move in the fashion that an in-market buyer wants. Okay? Now, on top of that, now to the question, SpyFi, I want to be more effective in my local market. Take the time to look through what you're spending your money on right now. If you're a smaller store, this should not be difficult. Go back and reverse engineer all of your sales. There's 2 things you're looking for. You want to eliminate the word walk-in. If you have, and again, as to go back, if you're blessed with walk-in business, ask yourself this. In this market, in this day and age, what consumer is really walking in? Totally uninspired, by anything that you've ever done. They're just walking in, throwing themselves to the wolves on the hope program that you might have a car to sell. Okay? Everyone has been influenced in some manner, form, and fashion. And you should be able to see it. And if you can't, any one of these wonderful women on this call can help you identify that kind of stuff. And folks, it's dealer to dealer. We give back. This whole call is about being able to share and inspire from those that gave us the ability to make our turn from a brick and mortar store in 2010 to now a high-performing #4, in North America digital dealer, right? Okay. The next thing is, when you're talking about reverse engineering your sales, you want to eliminate walk-in and find attribution for your sales. The next thing that has to be simultaneous to that is that your store has to win as well. You need to have referral, not repeat. Repeat you're already going to earn. You need referral-driven business. Every single unit that gets sold, you have to have your people asking for the referral of yet another unit that we need to sell to someone else. Let me put a dream in someone else's driveway, ma'am. What a pleasure it's been to work with you today. Who do you know that can't stand their car? Because I bet we'd love to buy it. All right? SpyFi is very efficient in this day and age. That in-market buyer targeting of men and women who are credit challenged is very precise. You can laser scope that. You can do it down based on income, time at residence, time at job. There's many different filters. It's a wonderful way to do business if you're set up with the right SpyFi finance department and so on. But small stores with smaller spends can be absolutely lethal if they will just cut away the fear-mongering stuff, the check-the-box marketing that we get sucked into as an industry that say, well, if you're not on XYZ platform, you won't sell any cars. I'm calling bullshit on that, okay? The truth of the matter is, for that gentleman who's a new sales manager in that store, you know where you're selling. And if you don't know, then go crawl through every one of your deals for the last 60 days. Find out where you're selling. Find out where these people live. Find out how they were influenced. And let's focus one at a time. Start at start. Start creating behaviors around what type of buyer am I currently targeting, thus what buyers am I missing. Hope I answered the question.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Sean, before you go to the next question,
well, I wanted to get a time check, yeah.
Oh, yeah, if anybody on the call has questions on how to start that, on how to do that, just reach out to us and we'll help you get a game plan together.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions that we don't get to on the call, because I know we're getting close on time here, but anything that you have to ask, and if you don't want to ask it in this public forum like this, just hit us up. We are ready and willing to help. Sean, do I have time to do another question?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. So we've got a question here. I've been in the business for 3 years, and I've embraced proactive script. I have a successful BDC, but how do I get all of my managers on board? The GM is on board, but my desk managers are not. Any pointers?
Love the question. Love the question. Okay, so here's the courage play, right? If the GM is on board and you're lacking the ability to crack the desk, okay, the first thing I would do, I can't stand that word, the desk, and I used it earlier, and as soon as it passed my lips, I thought, I got to take that out, okay? Sales managers manage activity. We manage transactions. We build teams. We produce net. Sitting at a desk, grinding deals all day while fun is not being a leader. That is not being the proper role to drive and manage the sales of the department. So in this particular question, for this particular person who's totally bought in, the GM's bought in, but the desk is old school. That desk is going to be a ghost town in 18 months if they don't hurry up and make the shift, okay? Because I, as a consumer, am not going to walk in and spend money into some, meat factory chop shop, right? So the way that I would recommend that is get everybody in the room and have the conversation about ROI. Folks, especially the sales managers, you get paid on the bottom line. And if you don't, well, you should, okay? Bottom line, you get paid on the bottom line, okay? So here's the reality. I, as the internet sales manager, BDC director, whatever the case may be, it's my responsibility to take in-market buyers and turn them into on the floor, on the lot, finish me buyers, okay? I need full and total support because that's where you get paid. I'm going to take someone who their comfort zone is they like to engage digitally or over the telephone. They don't want to necessarily come in just yet. But I will turn them into someone who is loved and cared for, and the minute they arrive, you are responsible to finish what we've started and what they want. Use the metric 1.3 physical dealerships visited by consumers in this day and age. Who's the 0.3? And in the interest of time, I'm going to haul ass here. The 0.3 is the loser. It's the old school store that thought it was the 80s and hit them with the short tie, plaid jacket, welcome to such and such, are you here for the big sale, and the people bolted, okay? The 1 point number in that equation is the winner. They're the one that recognize that I'm an in-market buyer. I know exactly what I want. I know why I want it, and I've chosen your store as to where I'm going to get it. So if you have struggles and buy-ins from the desk, you have to have everyone being 100% responsible to say, I will drive you in-market buyers. Are you going to close them? And if they can't, then have your role revised and take it cradle to grave from every single in-market buyer that comes in. You have your team then go all the way through it, sell it all the way through it, desk it, and take it right to finance. And very quickly, you will shift the entire culture of that store. Because when you start focusing on things like that, the differential between those who have contacted you as that result versus just kicking rocks and walking in and throwing themselves to the wolves is 80+% of all of your sales are going to be attributed to some specific digital engagement, telephone, chat, form fill, or text. I wish you great success on that question.
And I want to jump in here because the follow-up was, as a female. So I know that it was, how do you convince that desk as a female? So I think all three of us have dealt with that before. So Ashley, if you, and I know you were getting ready to chime in, but if you could tailor your response so that we follow up on how to deal with that. So dealing with an old school desk as a female trying to make a difference in the store.
Yeah, so I think as far as it goes to being as a female, make sure that you're being heard, take your seat, so to say. Make sure that you're not allowing them to bulldoze you, and you need to come at them with, facts and be strong and be heard, and it's okay to be a little bit bossy, not in a bad sense, but to make sure that you're being direct, right? But I want to say that
pushy.
Exactly. But what I would say in general is that this kind of goes back to that very first question that we had, which is changing the culture. And I don't know how many sales managers that you have or desk managers that you have, whatever the term is you're using in your store, but find the one who's going to be willing to work with you, or the one who has the most influence, and try to get an upfront contract with them. One of the things that was the biggest successor for me when I dealt with this in my career was listening to them. Because sometimes it seems like the things that they're saying don't make sense because we know better. But if you can really make them feel like you're listening, and as a female, you have a little bit of an advantage here because we are typically better at listening. Make sure that you're listening to them. Get what their pain points are with your BDC. Be open to saying that maybe you guys need to make some changes too, or at least you can come up with a compromise to where you can get at least one of those people on your side, because the results will speak for itself. And when one manager starts getting the results, he's going to then sing your praises and be your advocate to the other managers on the team, and your voice won't have to be as loud because he's going to speak for you.
And one thing I'm going to jump in on that as well. Hang on one sec. I want to jump in because, for me, it's not as a female. It says dollars and cents. And Erich mentioned it on how they get paid. Here's what I did when I did it. I sat down with the metrics, right? The formula that Erich gave you earlier, and basically said, I'm responsible for the set, you do the confirm, and the show. Of the people who show up, just do the math for them. Look at your shown closed percentage as it is now, and look at it where it would be if they actually took ownership of these buyers coming into the store and their responsibility in that, and show them the difference in units and gross profit. So here's where we're operating right now, because you're only closing 35% of the people that we're setting up for you. And then if you could close 60% of the people that I'm setting up for you, that's X number of units at X number per copy. Do you think you'd like to take that much home? I mean, what's your percentage of that? That's what was successful for me. I didn't make it about men, female, but of course I've been in the Good Old Boys Network for a long time. I made it about dollars and cents. How can you sell it to them? What's their pay plan?
I'd like to chime in. Sean, I know we are right on time, but this is a hot one of contention. So if everybody's okay, I'd like to finish that out if that's all right. Sean, are we all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so, I want to address the firstly as a female, and I have to say that I don't care if you're man, woman, striped, green, purple, or blue, to Jennifer's point, you manage the money, okay? And the reality is, within our organizations, we have 19 stores, and, we've shared before that we're a very high-performing digital retailer. We don't have a BDC. So if I'm a sales manager or I'm a GSM and I have a trained and kick-ass weaponized team that's going to set appointments and drive in-market buyers to me, hallelujah. People should be falling from the sky with praise for those people, because that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where you're getting paid, okay? If a GM is behind it, so be it. And to the point of buy-in, I couldn't agree more. You're going to need an advocate. The old school is going to have to learn the new school quickly, or there's always the independents. You can always go to the independents, all right? But the point of that is, I will drive my part of this. We are a team, one team moving in one direction. We help people buy cars. We make money doing it. Amen. I will do my part. I will drive them right to your hands. This is not about, the internet department. What is the internet department anyway in this day and age? What person does not influence with their smartphone in their hand, in their pocket, no more than 3 feet from them all day, all the time? So let's get rid of all that stuff, okay? Because if you show me someone that's focused on the internet department, then I want you to show me the traditional department. Show me the billboard department, okay? The reality is this. Man or woman, if you're responsible for a BDC or an internet sales department, which my truth is the sales department, then do that. And if there are men and women who are on, air quotes, the desk, who are responsible to close and put profit into everything that we do, amen, then let them do that. But it needs to be the understanding that I will do my part. We are a team. We are only as successful as the number of people that I can drive to you and the skill sets that you have to be able to finish what we've started. And to Jennifer and Bobbie and Ashley's points throughout this call, go to the metrics. Go to your close percentages. Make the business case, and any progressive dealer or GM or regional or market president on this call should be able to then identify with that and put emphasis and money behind it by saying, amen. You, fill in the blank person of this responsibility, are quite smart, and I love the leadership that you're taking to be able to drive our return. So I wish that gal, or if it was a guy, either way, I wish them great success. That is a gift position for any store, to be able to have that kind of a focused team that's driving in-market buyers. If anyone runs from that, that's a question that needs to be taken immediately to the GM to say, if we're 100% responsible, I'm struggling with why we're not 100% all in on in-market buyers, and create an experiential environment that has people falling in love with your store, your brand, your team. We buy from people that we know, like, and trust. We continue to buy from people that treat us like family. I can't thank you guys enough. I'm going to say thank you again, and I'm going to stop talking now. I don't know if there's a close here. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Great. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar. And thank you to ZMOT Auto, Ashley, Bobbie, Jennifer, and their invited guest, Erich, for some great content. To view this webinar on demand and future Digital Dealer webinars, please visit digitaldealer.com/webinars. Thank you, and have a great day.